Hi, friends. Welcome to the Mobile Bev Pros podcast, a podcast dedicated to providing mobile bar and event professionals with the information they need to succeed. I'm your host, business coach, and founder of the Mobile Bar Academy, Sarah Murphy. In each episode, the Mobile Bev Pros team will bring you industry experts, information, anecdotes, and opinions with the goal of assisting you in building a profitable, sustainable, and successful business that supports you in creating wealth. I'm excited to share with you today's episode, so let's get started. Today on the podcast, we're talking about a topic that has come up quite a bit, not only in our Facebook group, but in our group coaching container chat. And that is this concept that events are down across the industry, and people going into 2024 that have been around for a while are seeing fewer bookings on their books for the coming year than they have in the past years. And the culprit, according to many, is new competitors or an increase in competitors in their market. And we're here to squash this myth before it gets out of control. So we're going to talk about it today.
And there's so many components that go into this conversation. We're going to be touching a little bit on the mindset that's necessary to pull you through business wintering, but also the strategies that you can be implementing to increase bookings any time of the year, but also the things you can be doing if you are seeing a lull in sales to gear your business up for the next round of on season. And so this is sure to be a golden podcast. It's right on time.
Gonna be so yummy.
So, Sarah, you said you have seen this in the group chat as well as in the Facebook group. And I would just love to know, what is your take on business wintering? Is this absolutely guaranteed that people are going to see a lull in their business this time of year? Or is that a myth as well?
Yeah, so I think there's two concepts that are intermingling at this juncture. The first is the concept of business wintering. And I usually make a post or an Instagram reel every year about this topic because what we see is across the board, we start to see events die down at the end of Q4 and then have this big lull in January, generally, of the following year. And this is because people are partied out. They do all of this holiday celebrating. A lot of mobile bars choose to opt out of holidays because they get hit so hard with weddings, fall weddings, that they're just like, I ain't got nothing left to be going and chasing down these holiday events. And so they start to see it a little bit earlier. Other mobile bars are very much about the holiday events. And so they have a little bit of a busier season into and through December. But then there comes Christmas and there's a pretty big lull. Sometimes people will get those New Year's Eve events. And then January is like cricket and people start to panic. And there's a few different reasons why they panic. The first is that they probably, if they're panicking, are pretty new to the business and don't know the seasonality. They aren't familiar with the seasonality ebb and flow of this particular industry. And so it's jarring to go from a really busy event season of Q4 to kind of crickets in January. And if they are seeing some action, it's usually in leads, not necessarily in closings or bookings, because people get engaged. If they're a wedding focused mobile bar, they get engaged between Thanksgiving and New Year's. A large portion of people get engaged do so in that period of the year because people are already with family. There's festivities and lights and it's romantic and yummy. So they tend to get leads during this period, but they may not actually book. So they might not be seeing that cash flow from deposits. If they're not practicing profit first, 4,000th plug for practicing profit first straight out the gate, they are then potentially worried about being able to pay themselves or to pay their bills for those that aren't yet paying themselves. And that can be a little scary and people can go into panic mode if they're not expecting it and if they aren't sure how to get through, how to generate income during that time period. The second concept that we're talking about here is this concept that events are slowing down across the board. And I hear this mostly from what we lovingly refer to as the OGs. Now, if you're an OG in this industry, you generally started your mobile bar prior to 2020. Unfortunately, for those that started earlier, 2020 and before, what we saw were the heydays of events. It was a twofold situation. We saw mobile bars being very new and shiny in the industry. And so it was a bit of a wow factor. Oh, you've got this horse trailer that's a bar or a camper, an Airstream or Piaggio Ape. And there was excitement around this new thing that was now available for people to have at their events. So we had that in our favor. There was a lot of education going on in that time in the industry as to what a mobile bar was or why you would need one. But then Pinterest and Instagram does its thing, and now suddenly people understand what they are. That brings more. I don't know why the Mm, she looks like bring all the boys to the yard. That brought more people online. More people saw us on Pinterest and Instagram. And, oh, that's so cool. I could do that. All I need to do is take that rusting horse trailer that's been out in the field of my neighbor's yard for the last 15 years, and I could turn it into a money making enterprise. And so we saw more and more people enter the field after 2020. Mainly because people were sitting around going, "What else am I gonna do during the shutdowns?" And all events had ceased. And so those that had been in business prior to that, during the heyday of events, not only were they new and shiny, but there was a ton of events going on. 2019 was a glorious event year. I think everybody was making money just by existing. It was a little out of control as to how much business there was to be had in 2019. And that's a story that I could personally experience and that I've heard from other people in the mobile bar industry. There was just real momentum in 2019. And then 2020 happened and everything ceases to stop. And we saw this real pent up demand. Weddings were rescheduled, corporate events were rescheduled, festivals were rescheduled. And when they opened up the world again, not only were there all of these rescheduled events on the calendars for late 2020 and 2021, depending on where you were and how bad the shutdowns were. You also had this real desire to gather. So people that weren't necessarily planning on getting married or hosting an event suddenly needed an excuse to get together with people. So we saw big family reunions, we saw bigger school reunions, we saw all sorts of larger events that created this intense amount of demand. There was also a lack of supply at that time for a number of different reasons. Even though a lot of people had decided to get into the business in 2020, maybe their build wasn't finished or they had no visibility. So the people who were in the business prior to COVID and had some brand recognition, that had SEO built up, that had networks and relationships formed already, they were the first people to get all of these bookings that were coming online in late 2020 and 2021. Then there became this rumor, it's not really a rumor, it was a fact that you had to book early or you weren't going to have the vendor of your choice. And what we saw was people who were planning events started to book events way more in advance. So instead of booking a bar 6 months out or 4 months out for their event, which was typical prior to 2020, we saw people trying to book their vendors 18 months out or a year out. We coupled that with this inflation scare around post COVID and how the prices were going up because of supply chain issues. People were trying to lock in lower prices. And they did that by booking now for a future event so they could take advantage of now prices versus the prices that might be adjusted for inflation. Pent up demand coupled with people trying to book further in advance. And so 2021 and 2022, even because we still had a little bit of that, if they were booking in 2021 for 2022 events. And then for 2 solid years, it was baller. Everybody was making tons of money. Everybody was booking tons of events. We had really had the second heyday, basically, that I think set a false narrative around what the event industry standard looks like. And if you were to go back to 2016, 2017, which is when we formed our mobile bar, things weren't quite as boisterous. The market and the events industry wasn't as banging as it was in 2018, 2019, and then 2021 and 22. So I think what we're seeing is a correction of the market. We're seeing what actually was more closely representative of things that happened prior to 2018. And that means people are waiting a little bit longer to book. So people who are like, I'm usually booked out for the year in advance, they're not seeing that anymore. That doesn't mean that they aren't going to get booked. It just means that people aren't feeling the pressure to book now versus later. The other thing that we're seeing this impact of the news telling everybody that we're headed into a recession. Not necessarily untrue, and I don't wanna pretend like I'm some economist with insider knowledge. I'm not. I've lived through 2007 and 2008, the Great Recession, and what I can tell you is that people with money don't stop partying. They just don't. They don't stop having events. They don't stop drinking, and we're a luxury service. A mobile bar has always been a luxury service. Yeah, there is a subset of people that might have been booking mobile bar services as a splurge at their events that no longer can afford a mobile bar experience as a splurge. But that doesn't mean that there aren't plenty of people out there who are not going to still be booking events, booking bartenders, and are willing to spend that money. And so I think I kind of actually started tapping into the next point here a little bit prematurely, but I wanted to explain first what we're seeing in the market, what the OGs are talking about. Because if you're new to the market, you don't have any of this context. And if you are an OG that kind of started in 2018 or 2019, these massive years of bookings are something that's your comfort zone. That's what you're expecting because you don't have experience with those lighter bookings or with the bookings that are happening so close to the actual event. When I first got into the industry, it was not uncommon for the bartender to be one of the last things booked. If it was 4 months out, like you still had plenty of time. And that changed post COVID, but I think we're starting to see that come back. So if you're an OG and you're like, oh my God, the apocalypse, how am I ever going to feed myself? That's kind of why I think that we're seeing that. But also, the bookings are not down for everybody. So if you're an OG and you're seeing a reduction in bookings, we got to talk about how you're showing up in the world and where your focus has been in regards to growing your business and maintaining that flywheel.
Not to take this super deep or super woo, but reality is a mindset game. And we see that with the heaviest hitters, right? We see that with the big names in this industry that are not seeing those dips in bookings, that are not, still operating their mobile bar with their own two hands in and out of every event. Those heavy hitters are going to tell you that the two biggest factors are mindset and leadership. And of course, you've done a lot of study on this, Sarah, around mindset and really bringing it down to earth and making it a very scientific and psychologically based way of viewing the world so that it's not so woo and it's not so taboo. And it really, you can see the proof is in the pudding. When we're looking at these heavy hitters, we're looking at the big names in the industry. You can see that one is to get out of your own way, right? And build the team. Stop plugging every event with yourself and your husband. And the other one is that you have to know that your product, we have a coach for our email marketing, and she likes to call it $1,000,000 energy, right? You have to know without a shadow of a doubt that your product is a luxury service and that people are going to want it. Otherwise, you're not going to see that reflected in the field. Is that right? Can you break that down a little bit for us?
Yeah, to your point, I love psychology and neuroscience. And we love to talk about manifestation as a business tool. It's a word that gets thrown around quite a lot in the more feminine business spaces, but there is science that actually backs this up. And this concept, the perception is reality, is essentially the stories that we tell ourselves. And so if you go around telling yourself that there's a recession coming, you're going to see proof in your field, not because you're making that happen, but because your subconscious, your RAS, is actually whatever it is that you tell yourself is looking for proof. And so you're going to see bookings down. You're going to see businesses closed. You're going to be drawing your awareness to those things because your subconscious mind is always wanting proof for what you believe to be true. And so if you tell yourself a different story, it's not that you're creating a different reality per se, it's that you're behaving and you're showing up in the world that believes a different thing and you're taking different action. So if you are of the belief there are plenty of events out there and that you are the best choice for all of the available events that are in alignment with your ideal client, then your subconscious mind is actually seeking for opportunities to prove that is true. And that's a subconscious thing, not a conscious thing. So when you're having a conversation with someone, for example, you're not talking about the recession and bookings are down. You're talking about, do you have any events coming up? Do you know anybody that has events coming up? So you're showing up differently in the world, which is then producing different results.
I think a really simple example for this is if you've ever been in the market for a new car. For me, Subaru Outbacks never existed until I wanted one. And as soon as I had decided that was the kind of car I wanted to drive, I saw them everywhere. Does that mean that Subaru Outbacks didn't exist prior to me placing my focus on them? No, not at all. And whatever you're putting your attention on, you amplify. And so all possibilities exist in the field. Subaru Outbacks were always driving around. And as soon as I fixated my attention on that vehicle, my attention was more easily attuned to the Subaru Outbacks in my field.
Yes, exactly that. And the same goes with business. So if you're taking this perspective that the competitors in your field are what's causing this decline in bookings, then you're going to be looking to blame someone for that instead of shifting the perspective into an ownership capacity wherein, oh, the reality I'm seeing is that my bookings are down. How do I show up differently to increase my bookings? And that's what we're trying to encourage here because we have proof in our field. We have the benefit and the luxury of having intimate conversations with people about their experience within the mobile bar industry across, you know, thousands of mobile bar owners. And in the same market, I'll have a mobile bar who's saying bookings are down, as I have another mobile bar client who's just booked $100,000 in business over the past few months. And they're pretty new. And they're coming at this market with a ton of energy, a ton of drive, and they're doing all of the things that we teach in the Marketing Like a Pro section of the Academy. That's a little bit of a plug. If you're not already in the Academy, we teach everybody how to do these things. So there's no guesswork. We give you templates, a step by step guide, and it works every time. There's no magic in this industry about how to get booked and how to become a successful mobile bar. It's a strategy. We teach it in the Academy. Welcome you to get in there. If you want more support, we have the group coaching program, which is the accelerator program, is super supportive. Mobile bars are in there helping each other, sharing all their tips and tricks and secrets and all the good. It's delicious. And yes, it's an investment, but it pays for itself many times over. So that plug aside, what we are seeing with the mobile bars that are thriving right now and are like, you've got to be crazy. There's definitely no decrease in booking, is that they didn't get comfortable. And this is not something that is unique to mobile bars, and it's certainly not unique or on the precipice of recession, is that established business owners oftentimes put their visibility game on the back burner. They get a little comfortable. If you're an OG listening to this, I want to ask you, you can answer out loud to yourself. How many networking events do you go to regularly every month? How many cold outreach emails have you sent recently this month? How many newsletters and how often do you work your contact list or email list? How dedicated have you been to using your social media, not just for posting, but for engaging and attracting amplifiers such as venues and event planners, actually using it as a way to connect with the people that can get you hired? How many blogs have you written recently? What work have you done on your SEO? And if you're sitting there as an OG and you're like, I'm going to tell you, that's why you're worried about your competitors. It's because people who get into this industry, when they first get started, they know they need to build their visibility. And so they're hungry and they're out there and they're everywhere and they're making networks and they're posting on their socials and they're spending time on their shiny websites that are SEO optimized. They're using ChatGPT to create SEO optimized content, including blogs. And the OGs are getting left behind because they used to be perfectly successful with going to a networking event every once in a while, doing a bridal show, reminding people that they were around, and then they used their referral network. But guess what? Referral networks are only as strong as you're remembered. And if a new and shiny person comes along and they are perky and friendly. Maybe they have more competitive rates, but maybe they don't. I mean, the people that are crushing it right now, our clients that are in Dallas Fort Worth, they have premium luxury pricing. They didn't come in low. They didn't come in saying, well, I got to pay my dues. A matter of fact, both of them just quit their jobs and they're not even a year old. And we have people who've been trying to quit their jobs for 3 years. And they're like, I'm just trying to make a go at this. The key is really about visibility and being top of mind. And I feel like I'm a broken record sometimes because I find myself having to say this all the time. But this is the most common question we get. He's like, how do I get known? How do I get booked? I've started this bar. I'm not as busy as I want. I want to quit my job. How do I do it? There's no magic, right? You just follow the process. And so what we're finding is that the people who are really succeeding in this time frame are the people who are not resting on their laurels, who are still very much working their visibility game.
I think there's a quote somewhere that says something along the lines of more millionaires are created in a recession than any other time. And I think to your point, people who are looking for ways to succeed will succeed versus people who are not taking radical responsibility, radical ownership of their creation. Those people are looking for excuses. They're looking for reasons why it's not working. And if you're seeing that it's not working, I want you to know you can create proof of anything. You can create any proof, just like there was no proof that Subaru Outbacks existed for me until they did. And now they're everywhere in every shape, size, color, right? You can create whatever proof you're focusing on and turn your focus away from what's not working and start putting your focus on what can I do? How can I be more successful? And start really embodying, because that's the difference. You're embodying someone who is successful. That means you're taking the actions that a successful person is taking, right? Versus someone who's not embodying that is taking actions potentially in self-sabotage. They're sitting around waiting for the perfect time or their big breakthrough, but they're not taking those pivotal actions, like you've said, following the process, optimizing your SEO, and spending this time. We started this podcast talking about business wintering, talking about this low season, taking this time and capitalizing on it, really taking it as an opportunity to increase your visibility, network, optimize your SEO, get on your website, make sure that your book now button is above the freaking fold. Like all these things that you're saying over and over again. I think the reason you feel like a broken record is because there is a formula. It doesn't change. It has been the same since day one, except for minor details. Like we've introduced AI and Chat GPT. So sometimes things change, but for the most part, getting visible, getting booked, the formula is the same. And so no matter how many thousands of times you have this conversation, it's always the same. I do want to ask you, what is the difference between the academy? I mean, I know, but for the listeners, what is the difference between the academy and the accelerator? Because we do have some people in the academy who may have stalled out because they don't have the accountability that the accelerator offers, and they don't have the guidance of where they should be looking in the academy. Can you touch a little bit about the difference between those two and the opportunity that's available for people during the slow season?
Yeah, I love this question. The academy is my baby in that everything goes into the academy. Anything I build, anything I create, anything that we do, whether it's a webinar, a template, a swipe file, it all gets funneled into the academy. But that leads to information overload for a lot of people because they're like, well, where do I start? And I'm like, well, start at the top. It's a roadmap. It's beautiful and it's organized and it's curated and it's amazing. But even then, sometimes people are like, "But it's so much." And what I need right now is this. And while it's searchable and like it's super easy to use, that's my favorite feedback when people are like, Sarah, everything's here and it's so easy to find everything. I love that. Sometimes people just want you to help them do it. So I need somebody to hold my hand for a hot minute. I need somebody to make me feel less alone in this very lonely entrepreneurial journey. And that's where the accelerator comes in. I almost named it the Mobile Bar Academy Plus because it is essentially the academy plus structured support. So you have access to the team, you, me, and all the other group coaching clients within Telegram. It is a messaging app. You can leave voice notes, video notes, you can type, and you can get real time support. And matter of fact, like I try and not be in there super late, but they were having a conversation last night after 10 p.m. And that's to have somebody like on speed dial when you have a question. That's amazing. So there's that. There's also a strategy that we co-create. So I work with everybody who joins the accelerator and we create a 12-week strategy to help you achieve the goals that you say that you would like. So I actually go through your goals. There's a little bit of onboarding wherein you tell me kind of what you're trying to achieve and a little bit about your business. And then we co-create a 12-week strategy. And these are action items that you are going to do in order to accomplish the things that you say that you want to do. And then you check in and out with me every week and I respond. You tell me you're going to do this week. And then on Friday, you tell me you didn't do that thing. And it's okay, but why? What happened? And the reason that program is designed that way is because science says a few things. Science says that you're more likely to accomplish something if you're accountable to someone who is in a more elevated business position than you. Business coaches or personal trainers, you know what I mean? The people that you're working with that you're like, you've achieved the thing that I would like to achieve. And science says that if you work and are accountable to someone that is a little bit further along than you are more likely to achieve your goals. Accountability and the mere fact of telling someone else that you are going to do a thing increases your chances of actually doing that thing. The other thing is that real-time support, not having to wait for Q&A or not having to wait for a coaching call in order to get your questions answered allows you to have more momentum faster. And so not everybody has time for that. Not everybody necessarily wants that. Maybe somebody already has a business coach, that sort of thing. And so the accelerator program is just that more intimate opportunity to work with someone who knows this industry inside and out, has the ability to provide real time insight and real time feedback. I do business reviews in there so I can review your website or your pricing or your copy. And so that you're not like, lost, right? And so that's the real power of the group program. There's no necessarily additional information because if you're in the academy, you already have access to literally everything you need to build a seven-figure business, not just a six-figure. That's what we use because I think some people are scared off by seven figures because they don't even know what that would look like. But it is there to make a seven-figure business. And there's no new information in the accelerator. There's just additional support. I think I'll also add that oftentimes I get the question of, well, I've been in business for 3 or 4 years, so I don't need this, or is this for me? And the answer is yes. The accelerator is for anybody at any stage of business. And the academy is for anybody at any stage of business, to be honest, because if you're stalled out, or if you're struggling to grow, or if you're not sure where to go from here, chances are there's something in the academy that's going to clarify that for you. And then the last thing that I'll say is that if you're listening to this and you see yourself in this messaging, that you are a little scared of what's coming up, we sometimes get people that reach out and they're like, hey, we want to pause our membership because money's getting tight, or we want to cancel our enrollment because the flow season is here. Now is the time to be in the academy. And you already mentioned this earlier, but I encourage people, if you're already in the academy and you're getting a little nervous about funds. And so MVP in the academy is on the chopping block. Just spend a little bit of time in there before you decide to cancel and start implementing the things that are in there. And I promise you, you'll get a return on your investment. It will pay for itself. If you just go in and implement a few of the lessons, you're going to find that every single lesson in there pays for an entire month, if not more. You just have to go in and do that work. And now's the time to be doing that work, because the work that you do in the down season or during the business wintering period is the foundational work that will help you build the business and create momentum when the next season comes around. The second thing that I'll say is that if you're like, I'm not in the academy, I'm not in the accelerator, this sounds really good, Sarah, but I'm not convinced that you know anything. I hear you. We have an annual planning session coming up. We're hosting it on 2 dates. You can pick one or the other. Well, the first one is December 28th, and the second one is January 3rd. It's a half day workshop. I'm going to walk everybody through my proprietary it annual planning process that will help you develop the strategy for 2024. So it is literally your best year yet. You'll go into it with clarity, focus, numbers, goals, and a real roadmap on how to use 2024 to accomplish that next level of success, no matter where you are in the business. If you're a member of the academy or a member of the accelerator or any of the other group coaching containers, there's no charge for this. And it's already included in the programming. Again, all of our stuff goes into the academy because we believe in so much. And if you are not a member of any of those programs, we're actually opening it up to the public, and we'll have more information and details on that coming soon. But it'll be a little way to preview kind of what it looks like to work with me and to see the type of information and guidance that are provided through the academy and the accelerator. And also to just create a really comprehensive plan for 2024, which everybody should have before going into the new year. And so if you're not a member of the Academy of the Accelerator yet, and you want to make sure that you start 2024 strong, we are creating that opportunity for you. And if you are already in the program, then block out those dates on your calendar so that you can come and join us. That's December 28th and January 3rd. Exact times are eluding me, but the information will be shared very shortly. And we look forward to continuing to support everybody through business wintering, through this impending recession that people are telling us is about to happen, and also through their annual planning journey.
This is like a gift. This season, right? The slow season is the gift. It is the time for you to be doing the planning and to be optimizing. If you want to feel effective and you want to start really seeing results in your business, now's the very best time for you to get into any of these programs because you have that capacity, right? Whereas when you're in busy season, you might have the cash flow, I can, invest now. I have this excess of cash, but you won't have the time. You know what I mean? Unless you have built a team and they're running your business for you. But if you're not in that scale phase and you don't have an effective team running, then you don't have the time in busy season. So now's the very best time to get into any of these programs, whether it be the academy, the accelerator, or just if you want to taste joining the annual planning session. Because guys, these programs get results. I mean, we have people who have already hit 100K in the last 3 months. And that's multiple people hit 100K in 3 months. People who get into these programs and they implement what they're learning, they absolutely see results. What is it that you always say? It's a foolproof business. You can't fail in this business if you're implementing the strategies that we teach. And so if right now you feel like you're failing, we invite you to level up your strategies.
Yeah, and don't do it alone. Allow us to help you. Like, sometimes it can feel like it's cheaper to do it yourself. And that's not true. It's not true. Anytime I have to do it myself, it always ends up being way more expensive than had I had support and just paid to have someone do it for me. We are here to help people do it as quickly, as easily, as inexpensively as possible. And we do a great job, if I do say so myself. To anybody who's already in our programming, thank you for allowing us to support in your journey and for trusting us with your businesses and your growth and your success. We never take it for granted. We feel super honored to be allowed to be part of your journey.
All right. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for hanging out with me again today. This is another golden episode and allowing me to be the interviewer again on this awesome podcast. And I look forward to joining you hopefully in the next one.
And that wraps up today's episode. I hope it was valuable. I would love to hear from you what you thought. You can drop me a line at hello@mobilebevpros.com or find me on Instagram at mobilebevpros. If you're looking for more valuable mobile bar related content, we have a website full of it. You can find us at www.mobilebevpros.com. And I'd love to see you in our Facebook community, also by the name of, you guessed it, Mobile Bev Pros. Thank you for joining me today, and until next time, cheers.